The facade has been dropped. The world sees what Zionism actually is. It's a racist ideology. It is a supremacist ideology. It's a Eurocentric colonial ideology. And the evidence to that is that you have dozens of laws in Israel that apply differently to a Jew than they apply to a Palestinian.
An Israeli Arab bus driver who gets paid more than any bus driver in the whole Middle East because he's in Israel, right?
Okay.
A Muslim bus driver.
So there's no genocide happening.
What's your life like in the war in Israel? What do you like about? Do you like living in Israel? Do you like being in Israel? He says, I don't care about any of this nonsense. I just want to feed my family and be happy.
I'm glad we've cleared all that up.
Instead of focusing on.
I'm glad that we've cleared everything up.
Look at the day-to-day.
There's a Muslim bus driver who's getting paid a really nice salary in Israel. Therefore, we've managed to clear up all of this mess now. Okay, so your argument. Okay, no, hold on. Okay. So your argument is unless people protest proportionately to the crime, then hold on a second. Let me just finish.
I would let you say.
Let me just finish my point. Let me just finish my point. You're saying unless people condemn things proportionately to the number of victims, then somehow their arguments need to be ignored. Somehow the evidence they provide about
a big agenda. There's an agenda.
No, but deal with the evidence, my friend. Look, even if somebody is, let's say for argument's sake, you're right.
Yeah.
Let's say that I'm unfair.
Yeah.
Let's say that you accuse me of anti-Semitism. Yes. Let's say that you accuse me of just, concentrating on Israel and not caring about all of the other atrocities. Let's say you're right about everything. How does it change any of the evidence that I provided to you?
It doesn't. Listen.
It doesn't, does it? How does it change? How does it change? How does it change? How does it change? Listen to me. How does it change that you've killed more journalists than any other conflict? More children, more women and children, more medics.
Why do you have to focus on that? That's the question. Why are you obsessive?
Because whenever I see an injustice, whether it's in Syria, whether it's in Yemen, whether it's in Israel, whether it's in Palestine, no matter wherever I see an injustice,
whenever I see 3 hours talking about Yemen.
But you're a Zionist.
10 times the amount
but
of
you're a
people died in
Zionist.
Yemen.
No. But you're a Zionist defending Zionism, defending Israel.
I'm not defending
That's what you were doing.
I'm just.
So that's why we're having this conversation. If your conversation was you wanted to talk about Yemen, we would have spoken about Yemen.
Let's talk about everything.
No, but you
want to bring
you were
peace in the
defending.
world. You don't take the smallest conflict.
Look, I don't like it. I don't like it when people defend any injustice. I don't care if it's a Muslim or a Christian or a Jew. If something is inherently unjust, have the humanity, the decency, the fairness to say that's wrong. It doesn't matter who it is. If it's your own brother, if he's doing something wrong, for God's sake, pull him to one side and say that's wrong. Don't do that.
Okay.
But what you're doing is the exact opposite.
Do you condemn Israel?
You're saying no, Israel is right, everybody else is wrong. It's their fault. They're attacking, we're just defending ourselves. But my friend, when you look at the map, it doesn't look like defense. It looks like theft. You're just stealing all their land. And when you look at the comments that your politicians are making, we're going to utterly...
10% of the parliament. Now you bring extremists.
But
I know you do.
Listen, Benjamin Netanyahu used the word Amalek.
Okay, I've heard that a billion times.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, you don't want to hear it because
you're taking snippets from
well,
TikTok,
it's important.
From here.
He said, don't forget what Amalek did to you. Yeah? He said, don't forget what Amalek did to you.
All the soldiers are
now, by the way, we have other politicians, we have the general public, and we have the soldiers on the ground repeating this. And who was Amalek? Amalek are known to be the Canaanite people who I told you that the Palestinians are descending from. They literally, and by the way, the verse in the Bible in Hebrew, it says you have to not only kill them, but kill their seed. All of their descendants.
Go to Israel once, not 10
Right?
times. Go to Israel once,
So
and come back here.
you
and then
are
argue.
actually
Go to Israel
defending,
once.
you're defending
Go
an
to-
ideology
Go to a mosque in Israel.
that is deliberately
and see the
targeting
rights that
civilians
everyone has.
and justifying it from its holy
Go
book.
to Israel once and then come back here and then make your argument again. Okay? I've
That's
never
not an
been to
argument.
Iran. I cannot talk
That
about
doesn't
Iran
mean anything.
and
That's not an
about
argument.
Khamenei because I've never been there.
All I'm saying to you is, can't you see from your own eyes that this is a game reserve? They're being killed for fun. This is not right.
But if that was true, I would disagree.
This is not right.
100%.
But look, if you say this is not true, then you have to deny Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, B'Tselem, Oxfam, Save the Children. You have to disregard. You have to disregard the photographs. You have to disregard the video footage. Can I just finish? You have to disregard the video footage. You have to disregard what the doctors are saying, not just Palestinian doctors, but from America, from Britain, Jewish doctors from America saying the same thing. You have to disregard the journalists that are on the ground who are filming the stuff. You have to disregard what the soul. Look at this, how ludicrous again. You have to disregard the very films that are being shot by Israeli soldiers. And they are then presenting those to the world so brazenly and shamelessly. You have to deny your own eyes and your ears and your rationality to come to a conclusion that this is not happening.
Okay.
Because the evidence is so profound and it's so multifaceted
Okay, so now-
that you have to be
instead of
delusional to
lashing
deny it
out
any
against
longer.
Israel and the world's only Jewish state, let's try and make peace. Why haven't you ever thought about
The only way you can get peace is if you allow for it without persecuting and oppressing a people. Look, let me give you an example. You talk about peace. Yes? Whenever the Palestinians, including Hamas, wanted to negotiate for peace, you know what the Israelis said? The peace offensive. Why do they call it the peace offensive? Because the goal of the Zionist state was always, and that includes, by the way, the land fund in the 1940s, before the formation of Israel, when they were raising money to buy land. His name is, I think, David Weiss. He stood up and made a speech, and I quote, "It must be known that this land will not be shared by two people. It was always intended to be a Zionist Jewish state for the Zionist Jewish people."
And the Muslims and the Christians.
No,
There are 2
no.
million Muslims in
Listen
Israel
to me.
with equal rights.
I'm talking about the intention and the vocalizing of that intention. And from them, you have had a strategic, deliberate strategy to eradicate the Palestinian people from that land. So whenever they came up with a peace settlement, and Hamas had made it very clear, by the way, that we'll accept peace to the 1967 borders.
They want the whole
Yeah, 100%.
the whole Israel.
I go on record and say it.
Arafat wanted the whole Israel.
I go and say on record. No, Arafat didn't.
That's a lie.
If you look at the Camp David Accords,
Then he launched it into
if you look at the
Farah and
Camp, if you look at the Camp David Accords,
There's something in Islam called
the Jewish
temporary
attendees,
ceasefire. You know
the
what I
Jewish
mean?
attendees,
A
you know what they said?
temporary
If that was me, if I was a Palestinian, I would have never accepted this.
That's a negotiating team.
And that's a Jew saying it. That I would have never accepted this.
Okay, you won't make
Right?
peace by standing
So
here.
the point is,
You won't make peace by standing here attacking
No, but-
us.
no, the way that you make peace is the first thing that you do is you acknowledge that there is wrong here.
Do you acknowledge
The
what
first
you're
thing
saying?
you do is you
acknowledge
take accountability. The first thing you do is you ensure that when there is an injustice, that as a Jew, as a Zionist, okay, that you speak out as well.
human being, as a
and say
human
that, look, okay, I don't believe that Israel should be destroyed. I want my Jewish state.
Of course they do. No, they don't do
I feel that it's
Israel
entirely
has treated more
but
Palestinian children
this is
in their
wrong.
hospitals.
This is
Do you know how
wrong.
many Palestinians have been treated in Israeli hospitals over the years? How many Gazans have
How
been
does that
employed in
change
Israel?
anything that I've just said to
Because
you?
you're saying it's all deliberate, it's a genocide, it's a killing spree. It's so not true.
Okay, if it's not a killing spree,
The Palestinians,
if it's not,
Israel
if it's not,
has
okay,
tens of
please,
thousands of Jordanians,
Okay.
Israelis, Palestinians. have
please
been
explain
Arabs
to me. Okay, please explain to me.
treated in Israeli
I'm
hospitals.
pleading with you. Please explain to me the current situation in Gaza. The current situation in Gaza. You're saying it's not a genocide, right?
I don't believe it's
Okay,
genocide.
according to the definition of what a genocide is, tell me what else do they have to do to qualify the internationally recognized definition of
They have to
genocide?
do it deliberately. They have to kill. There has to be massive numbers of people who are being killed.
That's not the definition. That's not the definition. By the way, that's not the definition.
99% of Gazans are still alive.
I
That's a
said to you
fact.
the internationally.
Thank God, 99%.
Excuse me.
98.
I asked you, according to the international definition of what is genocide, according to Jewish academics who are experts on genocide, who are calling it a genocide, but let's not go down
I'm not an
there.
expert, so
I'm asking you, according to the Genocide Convention.
You're the expert. So
No, not at all, not at all. I'm asking you, according to the Genocide Convention, what is left for Israel to do to qualify it to be a genocide? Please explain that to me.
Okay, whatever you think. I'm not.
There is nothing left, my friend.
nothing
They've
left.
surpassed that long time ago.
Okay, that's your opinion.
It's not my
Do you
opinion.
care it's a genocide or not?
It's the opinion of Jewish scholars
Okay, fine.
who are genocide scholars,
Okay.
experts in genocide.
Okay.
So
So what do you want me to do about
what
it?
I want you to do, I know that we're having a heated discussion,
Yeah.
right? Because we're passionate,
I'm
right?
trying to calm
But what I
things down,
want
come to
you to
resolution
what I
rather
want you
than-
to
rather
do
than
what I
fight.
want you to do is that when you're shown facts,
Yeah.
when you're shown overwhelming evidence, I want you to be true to that evidence. I want you to at least acknowledge that as a Jew, I don't accept this. Moses would not have accepted this. Prophet Moses, peace be upon
You're
him, would
allowed
have
to say it,
never
Rob.
allowed
You're allowed
us
to
to
say
just
it.
go and kill innocent people like this, shoot people and kill them. And as a Jew, I want you to realize that this will not result in a stronger Israel. This will not result in the culmination of your history, being successful, living in this land. It is going to seal the end. And I'll tell you why. Because when you make enemies of people and you do the sort of things that you're doing, it has resentment. There's anger.
The resentment was there on
There's
October the
anger.
6th.
There's
already.
anger.
The resentment was
And
there.
the resentment was there on October the 5th and the 4th and the 3rd. Did you know that there were 4 October the 7th inflicted upon the Palestinian people before October the 7th? But you're not aware of that because you don't care.
I haven't watched Al Jazeera for a long time.
You don't care. That's the point. You complain about rockets. The rockets destroy one house. And I'm not exaggerating, literally one house. And then you guys go in and destroy 12,000 homes in Operation Cast Lead and Protective Edge. One house partly destroyed, and then you go and demolish 12,000. So what I'm trying to do, I don't hate you as an individual. As a Jew, I see you as a people of the book. Allah tells us, the Jews and the Christians, the true believers of Moses, the true believers of Jesus are people of the book. They're revered in Islam as people of believers. We believe that the people who followed Moses, authentically his teachings, they will go to paradise.
Answer your question from before about what prevents it.
Oh, he doesn't have an answer. I'm not going to...
Maybe it's the number of people, the quota of people.
I mean, a genocide is a deliberate attempt. A genocide is a deliberate and targeted attempt to kill a massive percentage of.
A genocide is, I'll give you the definition, is to kill in part.
The Met police are a genocide.
Let me give you the
because they
definition.
killed 5 people last year.
Let me give you the definition. The definition, as is widely accepted, is that to kill in part or in whole. It's not about killing most.
When there's 2.2
It's not
million
about
people
numbers.
before October 7th, there's 2.2 million Palestinians in Gaza pre-October 7th and 2.2 million a year
Who
and
said
a
there's
half later.
2.2 million in Gaza now?
There
Even the
is.
Israelis don't agree with those figures.
Even Hamas agreed.
Even Israel,
say-
even Israel doesn't agree with those figures because
And
you know
displaced
because
as
you know
well.
what Israel claims. Israel claims that the 60,000 people that have been killed,
Are terrorists.
Okay.
they say at least 50% of them are Hamas. That's what they claim.
Which is true.
Including the kids.
Well, how do you know? How do you
Why
know it's
would
true?
Israel send Turkey?
How do you know it's
gave
true?
the biggest delegation of support. There was
Please.
an earthquake in Turkey
No,
2 years ago.
please explain to
no
me.
country gave more
Forget the
support to
earthquake. I'm
Turkey
talking
than
about
Israel.
what's happening now. How do you know that's true? How do you know that's true?
Because I believe Israel. What Israel
Okay, you
said.
believe Israel. Okay.
Because
Now-
I don't believe corrupt.
Okay, fine. That's
authorities
fine.
like
You
Palestinian
believe
authorities.
Israel. Okay, that's fine. Okay.
Naturally,
No, hold on a second. Okay.
I don't think everything they say.
Okay,
might be
that's
true.
fine. That's fine. You believe Israel, okay? My view would be that
You've never been to Israel, so you can't. You believe all what you see on social
well,
media.
you're pulling a Douglas Murray.
I am not talking
on
about
Dave Smith.
Douglas Murray.
Yeah, in the Joe Rogan. You've never been. Yeah, you've never been. He writes about Iran. He writes about Iran all the time. That joker, that fool, and he's never been to Iran. The guy's an idiot. So please don't pull arguments from those fools.
Nobody's allowed to have an opinion
Right?
in Israel.
According to you,
The
there's no
point.
Muslims in
The point
Israel.
is
They've all
no.
been killed.
The
They've got
point.
no
The point
rights.
I'm going to make to you is
That's
this:
not true.
Would I go to Jimmy Savile to define his crimes, okay, of child abuse? For those of you who don't know, Jimmy Savile was a prolific child abuser, a famous individual in the UK, and he abused hundreds of kids. Okay, would I go to him to ask him, hey Jimmy, did you really abuse those kids? Yes? Because Jimmy Savile's going to say
Israel
to
have
me,
a Supreme Court.
Jimmy Savile's
Israel
going
have a
to,
democracy.
no, Gov.
Israel have an opposition.
It's all lies.
Israel have a
I
freedom
never
of
did
press.
it.
You can't compare.
What I would do, as a sensible, rational human being, is I'd go to the hundreds of victims, wouldn't I? Yes. And I would see what they have to say. I would look at the evidence and perhaps CCTV cameras when he was in the hospital doing his dodgy stuff. What I would not do, I would not go to Jimmy Savile to define his crimes. And this is the problem.
Okay.
You got the BBC,
Okay.
you got CNN, all these idiots. Oh, the IDF have told us that they don't deliberately. So we have to give their view about it.
I once asked an Arab bus driver.
The murderer,
once
the
asked a Muslim
killer,
Arab bus
the
driver.
oppressor, the subjugator does not have the right to explain his crimes.
I once asked-
the people witnessing it, the doctors, the surgeons, the journalists, okay, the human rights organizations have the right, since most of us would agree that they have more neutrality than Israel will have or that Hamas will have. But no, you want to go and trust the very person, the very people who are committing the atrocities. That's a foolish way to look at things.
Okay, let me end with what one Israeli Arab
Don't
bus
go and
driver.
ask Jimmy Savile
One
anything.
Israeli Arab bus driver.
Especially
I
because you're
asked him-
quite young and
asked him.
don't want to do that. Trust me. Mind you, he's dead now, so you're safe. Anyway, let's move on.
An Israeli Arab bus driver who gets paid more than any bus driver in the whole Middle East because he's in Israel, right?
Okay.
A Muslim bus driver.
So there's no genocide
Asked him,
happening,
What's
therefore.
your life like in the war in Israel? What do you like about? Do you like living in Israel? Do you like being in Israel? He says, I don't care about any of this nonsense. I just want to feed my family and be happy. With my
I'm
life."
glad we've cleared all that up.
Instead
then.
of focusing on.
I'm glad that we've cleared everything up.
Look at the day-to-day
There's
life
a Muslim
of
bus
Palestinians and
driver
Israelis
who's
that are-
getting paid a really nice salary in Israel. Therefore, we've managed to clear up all of this mess now.
Look at the day-to-day life of
Managed to
people
clear it
who
all
want
up.
to support their families.
Nothing to look here. The bus driver's happy. He's getting paid really well. Why are we talking about genocide? Why are we talking about 50, 100, 200,000 people being killed?
Don't look at Al Jazeera.
The bus driver's happy.
Don't look at Al Jazeera.
Yeah. He likes a little shawarma. He likes a bit of a shawarma. He eats shawarma. A lot of the Jews like our food. They like falafel. They like shawarma, right? So it's okay.
Israeli food, like the
Yeah,
Muslims
come on,
wash their
man. What sort of
hands.
argument
They
is
wash
this?
their feet in the mosque.
What is
They
this
got it from the
argument?
Jews. Huh?
Come on, what is this argument? You seem like a clever guy. You're coming up with these silly arguments.
Silly argument.
Is this a happy
It's not
bus-
a silly- I'm using a bus driver as an example.
A happy bus
The
driver
day-to-day
doesn't
life
change
of millions
anything.
Of Arabs are-
Please.
They want to stay in Israel and they want to be part. Millions of at least half the Palestinian population wants to be part.
Do you know what's happening in the West
They want
Bank?
Israeli passports.
Do you
It's
know?
like a green card.
Do you
An
know?
Israeli passport
Do
gives
you
freedom
know?
of press,
Do you know what's happening
freedom
in
of
the?
speech.
Do you know what's happening in the West Bank?
I know what 95%
What are the
of
settlers?
Palestinians are going through every day.
What are the
They
settlers
are
doing?
happy
What
in the West
are
Bank.
the settlers doing in the West Bank?
Stop focusing on minorities. Stop focusing on Bradford.
When Ben Gvir,
Focus on the
Ben
majority
Gvir,
of the country.
that nutcase, Zionist, extremist,
Stop focusing
terrorist,
on anomalies.
right?
Stop focusing on
when he went,
anti-Semitism.
excuse me,
That is anti-Semitism. You're focusing excessively on anomalies
what are you talking about?
because you're trying.
I don't hate Jews, my friend. I don't
Why are
hate
you
Jews at
focusing-
all.
why are you excessively focusing on
let me
Jews?
make this very clear. If I hated Jews, I'd be.
You're hating the state
Let me-
that 95% of Jews
let me just make my
believe
point.
in for their
Let
own
me just make my point.
You're hating the state.
Let me just make my
Oh,
point.
you don't hate Italians. You only hate Italians.
Let me make my point.
No problem with Italians.
Let me make
I
my
love
point.
Italians. I just
You
hate
accuse me
Italians.
of anti-Semitism. Let me make my point. If I hated Jews just because they were Jews, I'm an idiot.
Every generation,
I'd be an idiot.
anti-Semites had excuses. We don't hate the Jews.
Can I
we
just
only
finish
hate
my
their
point?
clothing. We don't hate their Jews, only their profession.
Can I finish
now
my point?
we only hate the Jews. We don't hate the
Can I
Jews. We
finish
only
my-
hate their land.
No, I'll explain that to you. I'll explain that to you. If I hated a Jew just for being a Jew, I'd be an idiot, quite frankly.
Why?
The Prophet, peace be on him, married a Jew. She was Jewish, ethnically, because according to you, the lineage from the mother is Jew.
Yeah.
She was a Jew. When the other wives of the Prophet, peace be on him, used to say things to her, you know what he said to her? Tell them that you're from the lineage of a prophet, that you've married to a prophet, etc., etc., etc. He gave her a way to defend herself. Okay, so we don't hate Jews.
That doesn't explain anything. Nazis married Jews.
We don't hate Jews. The issue is not that. The problem is that we
hate their country.
We
hate the
hate
country that they support,
anybody
that they
that
love.
oppresses another people. If you oppress somebody, we don't like that because our religion does not allow us to side with the oppressor. Even the Prophet said.
So only Israel's the oppressor.
So the Prophet said, peace be upon him, even your brother, support him, whether he is the oppressor or the one being oppressed. Think about that.
Okay, but that doesn't reflect the reality.
Hold on a
in the
second.
Islamic
Let me
world,
just
right? It
explain
doesn't
that to
reflect
you.
the reality.
1 second. So the
The
companions, let me just
the
finish.
Shiites are being oppressed
Let me
by
just
the
finish
Sunnis.
my point.
Sunnis are being
Can I just
oppressed
finish
by
my
the
point?
Shiites.
Can I just finish my point?
Right, okay.
So the companion said, we understand supporting our brother when he's being oppressed. But how do we support him if he's the oppressor? By stopping him.
So why don't you stop
By
Yemen?
stopping
Why don't you
him
stop the
from
Houthis?
oppressing.
Why don't you stop the
What,
Khamenei?
me going to stop
Or at
the
least stand here
Houthis?
supporting-
How can I support it? How can I
So how
stop
can you be
that?
against Israel? You say you can't support.
I'm
the
against any oppression.
Houthis. Okay, so support. So be against
I'm
the
against.
Houthis. Why are you against the Houthis?
If the Houthis target civilians, I'm against
do,
them.
so why don't you-
I'm against them.
Why?
I don't support anybody that
Were you
targets
against
civilians.
Gaddafi?
If Gaddafi kills civilians, I completely absolve myself from
yeah?
him. 100%. I'm not from Gaddafi, and Gaddafi is not from me. I have nothing to do with him.
You said that earlier.
I even said to you that if my own father was an oppressor, I would cut myself off.
Okay.
I would not support that because my religion doesn't allow me. My religion does not allow me.
It's a Muslim channel, and you say that's part of the Muslim.
Well,
religion.
no, I want to
believe
go to your comment about being anti-Semitic and being anti-Israel,
I'm not saying you, I'm just
because
saying- I'm
being
just saying there's an
anti-Israel or anti-Zionist
element.
is anti-Semitic according to you.
Not
right?
always, but most of the time.
Okay, and I'm saying that's fundamentally wrong.
Okay, of course.
Because
you're saying
even Orthodox Jews do not regard Zionism as Judaism.
that. Right.
It's a political movement.
Okay, but
they
it's
them. Hold on a
but the
second.
land where
You
Israel
asked me a
is Israelis are in
question.
danger.
You made an assertion. Let me answer. Right. So even Orthodox Jews do not accept that that Zionism is Judaism.
We're not talking about Zionism.
Hold on
We're
a
talking
second.
about Israel now.
Can I just finish my point? They accept that it's a political movement. Many of them are very vocal against Zionism. Very much local. And in fact, on the marches, many of the Orthodox Jews are with the Muslims. And
That's less than
with
1% of the Orthodox community.
whatever, many of them.
The vast
And they
majority-
see Zionism as something that is pernicious. It is something that is vile. It's corruption. It's corrupt, and they don't like it. It's not Judaism. In fact, they say we lived under peace with the Muslims. We had our rights, and according to Jewish law, there should be no country established until the Messiah comes, according to Jews. So your argument is not religious, it's a political movement called Zionism. And Zionism today, the world over, look, the facade, the facade has been dropped. The world sees what Zionism actually is. It's a racist ideology. It is a supremacist ideology. It's a Eurocentric colonial ideology. And the evidence to that is that you have dozens of laws in Israel that apply differently to a Jew than they apply to a
It's like
Palestinian.
in Saudi Arabia, right?
To a Jew,
like in
to a
Saudi- it's like
Palestinian.
in Saudi Arabia.
No, but the point is, if you're a Saudi, you're under the Saudi law. In Israel, even if you've been there for 20 generations, you have a different law.
you don't. If you're
Absolutely.
Israeli Arab.
Tell me the right to return. If an Arab is kicked out, can he return back to his
He
land?
wasn't kicked out. He chose to leave. Right. That's back to what.
If he's kicked out,
If he's kicked out,
does he have the right to return?
I'm not sure.
No, he doesn't. But if a Jew is born in Manhattan He's never been
You're saying there's no Jewish roots
to
You're saying
Israel.
there's no Jewish
Guess what? He has full rights to go there, to get land, even if it means occupying the home of a Palestinian. And the classic video we saw, "You're stealing my home." What does he turn around and say? "If I don't steal it, somebody else will." That's the methodology, that's the mindset that the Israelis have. And I'm telling you straight that this is not going to strengthen Israel. It's going to weaken you. And what's going to happen is eventually, and if you operate this law that many other civilizations conquered, so we conquered, then don't be sad, don't be upset, don't be angry if tomorrow the Syrians conquer you. Don't be upset then if the Iranians come and conquer you. Don't be upset, because if you live by the sword, you die by the sword.
Okay, well, at least we tried.
If you don't, if you say you're going to have international world order, and you're going to live under that, then you have to respect that. And if you don't, then you open the floodgates. That the might is right. If tomorrow the American empire, because the dollar collapses, which it probably will, and the American economy collapses, and we see the soup kitchens, which we probably will. I don't hope that for anybody, but that's where it looks like it's going. Israel's finished. Because that big bully that was supplying the arms, supplying the weaponry, that will be the end. What do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen then? The people are angry now. Okay, they've seen the persecution, they've seen the slaughter, they've seen the oppression. What do you think the people are going to do? That is why I'm telling you, for your own survival, take terms that are generally agreed upon, which is 1967 borders, with Palestine having East Jerusalem, having its own autonomy, looking after its own borders, looking after its own airspace. Okay?
Obviously under
Israel is not. Listen to me.
It has to be under Israeli security
let me explain something to you.
Hamas and the PFLP
Let me just explain something to you.
Islamic Jihad, right?
Hamas is like a mosquito. You understand? Israel is like an elephant when it's comparative to arms. You're a nuclear power, man. You have F-35s. Yes? Abraham tanks. Hamas has handheld weaponry. Literally. Israel is not under a threat of anybody. You're a nuclear power. If you know this nonsense about Iran, if Iran was to dare to launch a nuclear weapon on Israel, Israel would create a crater that was known to be Iran. That's how powerful you are with military. You're not under any threat. You're the bully of the area. You are the bullies. Syria doesn't have the technology. Iran doesn't have the technology. None of them have the technology. You're not under any threat. You are the bully of the area. You're the one expanding your borders all the time. And what I'm saying to you is this hubris, this arrogance, okay, will lead to your destruction. Because throughout all of human history, whenever an empire has executed such activities to this level of hubris and arrogance, I heard an Israeli say, wallahi, I heard this, I was shocked. Even if God tries to stop us, before we would have famine, we would be running out of water, we would have drought, we have desalination plants, we have this, we have that. Wallahi, challenging Allah, challenging God Almighty. That level of hubris,
the Arab world could get that as well.
that level of hubris and arrogance, wallahi, if you don't stop,
fighting,
it will be your destruction. It will be and I don't wish for innocent people to die, to lose, the ability to live in freedom and security. But this is leading to a world of destruction. And if everybody starts operating this law, might is right, we will have perpetual wars and perpetual genocides.
That's the only way in the Middle East. That's how it looks like.
Anyway, it's a shame that, give us the microphone back to whoever it was. But anyway, That's his microphone. Whose microphone? Yours, eh? Okay. Anyway, so we'll just finish up on what we were discussing. It's a real shame that in the Western Hemisphere, predominantly within Western media, we have this support for what is clearly racism, violence, oppression, subjugation, and it's without a shadow of a doubt, it is genocide. And according to definitions found internationally, within even Jewish genocide scholars, this is a genocide. Now the fact is, why, and this is an important point, why is the Western world only turning now against Israel? Why is Piers Morgan not having moral quandaries now? It is not because they've suddenly gained a conscience. Don't be fooled. Do not be fooled by them explaining how they're outraged with what they are seeing, because what they are seeing is nothing new. This has been happening for the last 19 months. So it is not because the evidence now is compelling. The evidence was compelling 19 months ago. The only reason that they're coming forward now, the only reason that they're saying that this is wrong and that we don't support this is because they know that the hubris, the arrogance, and the level of destruction is getting to such a level that the ICC and the ICJ will rule that this was indeed a genocide. And every party that supported that genocide, whether the media, whether the politicians, they will be held accountable because they would have facilitated the genocide. They would have covered for the genocide, whether politically, whether within journalism, or whether directly supplying arms. And Britain is not just complicit, but it is an active participant to this genocide because it flies surveillance aircraft from its base in Cyprus around Gaza, and it provides that information to Israel. And so it is complicit within that genocide. It is an active participant to that genocide. And they realize now that now the game is up. The game is up. Now the rulings are going to start coming. New lawsuits are going to come. And they are now simply saving their own necks because they know that their necks will be on the chopping block as well when the ICC and the ICJ rule. So the reason why Piers Morgan and all of these other liars and deceivers are coming forward with their condemnation of Israel and what Israel is doing is not because they have some moral backbone. They have no morality. Many of these people, as far as I am concerned, when it comes to morality, are walking corpses. They are dead. They lost their humanity years ago. And this has lowered the facade, has removed the facade of what Europe and America claimed that it operated the human rights, democracy, the rule of law. It has diminished, it has wiped clean all of that. And they are humiliated in the world today. And it's to save themselves from that further humiliation and criticism that now they come forward to condemn, like leeches that they came out of the ocean, out of the river to show themselves. But where were they for 19 months when the doctors, the surgeons, the human rights organizations, when witnesses from all over the world were reporting that these people are being massacred, they're being killed, they're being deliberately targeted. Every hospital, every school, every maternity department, every clinic, every nursery, for God's sake, kindergarten, destroyed. They didn't know this? Of course they did. But now it's about damage limitations. They want to save themselves. But I hope that the world doesn't forget what they did and holds them accountable. And just because they ignored it and supported it for 19 months and they start condemning it now, it's not good enough. Too little and too late. And may Allah damn them and condemn them for what they did. Unless they repent sincerely, then yes, I hope that they are punished for their crimes, because they facilitated it. They actively facilitated, they covered it up. And they are as responsible as the one who pulled the trigger. If you supply a gun and you give the intelligence information and then you give your shoulder for somebody to put the gun on and they just pull the trigger, they are not the only murderer. They're not the only killer. They're not the only oppressor. The one that gave the shoulder, the one that gave the support, the one that gave the intelligence, you're as guilty as the one who pulled the trigger. And I hope that they either repent or they go through their punishment. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.